My girlfriend of 8 years cheated with my best friend, but when I found out, the whole group knew for a year. I destroyed his wedding in front of 200 people and got revenge on each one of them. They never saw what I did coming. I'm 29 years old. I manage my father's office supplies business, and what happened 6 months ago basically destroyed my entire social life and my 8 year relationship in a single afternoon. The truth is, I still don't know if I did the right thing, but I guess I need to tell this whole story because it's the only way to process it. And when I say I destroyed everything, I mean I literally ruined a wedding, ended things with my girlfriend, lost all my college friends, and then, you know, methodically made sure each one of them paid for what they did to me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. I met Caroline in college when we were like 21 years old, I think. Or maybe I was 20 and she was 21. I'm not completely sure. We were part of this friend group that formed in sophomore year. You know how it is. You meet some people at a party, then others in class, and suddenly, you have this circle of like 7 or 8 people who do everything together. Gabriel was my roommate at the time, and we basically became best friends from day one. The guy was amazing, or at least that's what I thought. He always had plans to do something. He was the life of the party, that kind of person who makes it impossible to be bored. Caroline was friends with a girl who was dating another guy in our group, Mitchell, and that's how she entered the circle. I remember perfectly the first time I saw her. She was wearing a blue blouse and was laughing at something someone had said. And I thought, I have to meet this girl. And, well, I met her. We started dating like a month later, and it was perfect for a long time. The following years were, I don't know, normal, I guess. We finished college, everyone got jobs, some stayed in the college town, others moved but not too far, like an hour or two away. I went back to work with my father in his business because that was always the plan, and Caroline got a job in marketing for a local company. Gabriel moved to the nearest big city, like 40 minutes away, but he still came back every weekend. The group stayed together in a way that, looking back, was almost weird. Like most people lose touch with their college friends after graduating, right? But not us. We kept having meetups every week, trips together 2 or 3 times a year. We celebrated birthdays and any excuse to get together. And I thought, how lucky I am to have these friends, you know? This group of people who really care about me. Caroline and I had been living together for like 4 years when she started getting weird about the marriage topic. Before that, we had talked about it casually, like, yeah, someday we'll get married, have kids, you know, the usual stuff. But like a year and a half ago, more or less, I started mentioning it more seriously. And she always found a way to change the subject. At first, I didn't give it much importance. I thought maybe she was stressed with work or something. But then it started to become more obvious, like I'd say something like, we should start saving for a wedding. And she'd respond with, we don't have to rush. Or, we're fine as we are. Why complicate things? And I'd be left there thinking, complicate things? We've been together 7 years, we live together. What is there to complicate? But I never pushed the topic too much because, honestly, I was afraid she'd tell me she didn't want to marry me. Then Gabriel announced he was getting married. This was like 9 months ago. He had been dating this girl, Abigail, for like 2 years, maybe a little less. She came from a family with quite a bit of money. Her father owned several car dealerships or something like that. Gabriel introduced her to the group after they'd been dating for like 6 months, and honestly, she never fit in very well with us. She wasn't a bad person or anything. She was just very different, like more formal, more reserved. But Gabriel seemed happy with her, and that was what mattered, I guess. When he announced the engagement at one of our group gatherings, we all got super excited. You know, hugs, toasts, the whole show. And then Gabriel looked at me and said, Alexander, I need you to be my best man. Obviously. And I said yes without hesitation, because he was my best friend, and I felt super honored. The thing is that in the months following that announcement, Caroline got even more distant about the marriage topic. Like, we'd go see the progress of Gabriel's wedding plans, and she'd get all tense. Once we were in the car coming back from a meeting where Gabriel had shown us photos of the wedding venue, and I commented something like, when it's our wedding, we should consider an outdoor place too. And she literally exploded. She told me to stop pressuring her, that not everyone needs to get married, that she was happy as we were. And I was like, what just happened? But I didn't want to fight. So I just said, okay, don't worry, I'm sorry. That night, she slept on the couch, which was weird, because normally if we fought, we'd make up before sleeping. I should have seen it coming right there, but I guess you see what you want to see. The months passed and the wedding was getting closer. I was busy with my responsibilities as best man, organizing the bachelor party, helping with little things here and there. Gabriel and I spent quite a bit of time together in those months, more than normal even. And never, not once, did I notice anything weird. He talked about Abigail, about how excited he was for the wedding, about the plans they had for their honeymoon in Italy. We talked about life, the future, everything. And I told him about how Caroline didn't want to talk about marriage, and he told me that maybe she just needed more time, that not all people are ready at the same pace. He told me this while looking me straight in the eyes. Can you believe it? The son of a bitch gave me advice about my relationship while he was sleeping with my girlfriend. The wedding was going to be at a big hotel like an hour from where we lived. It was a fancy place, like 5 stars, with huge gardens and all that. Abigail's family was paying for everything, and they had invited like 200 people. The bachelor party was 2 weeks before the wedding, and it was pretty normal. We went to a bar, drank too much, Gabriel got sentimental, and gave us a speech about friendship and how important we all were to him. I got emotional like an idiot, and even shed a couple of tears. The other guys from the group were there too, Mitchell and 2 or 3 others, and we were all having a good time. Nothing weird happened. There were no signs of anything. The wedding weekend arrived. It was a Friday when we had to get to the hotel for the rehearsal dinner, and then the wedding was Saturday afternoon. Caroline and I drove together, and she was quiet the whole way, looking out the window with her headphones on. I thought maybe she was tired from work or something. We got to the decision. The hotel around 3 in the afternoon, checked into our room, and then each of us went to do our own thing until the rehearsal dinner, which was at 6. I went with Gabriel and the other groomsmen to check that everything was ready, while Caroline said she was going to stay in the room resting. The rehearsal dinner went well. Everything went as it should. Abigail was radiant. Her family was nice, although a bit intimidating. You know, those kind of people who have money, and you can tell in everything. We had dinner, there were some speeches. I gave one about Gabriel that I had prepared for weeks, talking about our friendship since college, how happy I was for him. People laughed at the funny parts, got emotional at the sentimental parts. Gabriel hugged me afterwards and told me I was the best friend anyone could ask for. Caroline was sitting at a table with Brooke and Monica, 2 girls from the group, and I saw them laughing and drinking wine. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed perfect. After dinner, around 10 at night, most people went to sleep because the next day was going to be long. But some of us, basically the college friend group, decided to stay a while longer at the hotel bar having some drinks. There was Gabriel, Mitchell, me, and like 3 other people from the group. Caroline said she was tired and went to the room, which didn't surprise me because she was never really one to stay up late. We stayed at the bar until like 11:30, maybe midnight, and then everyone started dispersing. I went up to the room and Caroline was already asleep, or so I thought. I changed in the bathroom so as not to wake her, got into bed, and fell asleep pretty quickly because I had been drinking a bit and was tired. I woke up around 2 in the morning because I was thirsty, and when I reached my hand toward Caroline's side, the bed was empty. I turned on the light and she wasn't in the room. I checked the bathroom. Nothing. I thought maybe she had gone down to get something from the vending machine or that she couldn't sleep and was walking around. I didn't give it much importance. I drank a glass of water and went back to bed. But I couldn't sleep well. I had this weird feeling in my stomach. I don't know why. Around 2:30, I decided to go down and look for her. I put on some jeans and a hoodie and left the room. The hotel was super quiet. You could only hear the hum of the air conditioning. I went down the stairs looking for her, checked the lobby, the bar, which was already closed, the vending machine area. Nothing. Then I thought maybe she was in one of the girls' rooms. Sometimes they stayed up talking. I was going to go back to the room when I decided to go out to the parking lot. I don't know why, maybe just to get some fresh air, and that's when I saw it. Gabriel's car, a black Honda Accord from 2019, was parked in a corner of the parking lot away from the lights, and there were 2 people inside. I could see the silhouettes through the windows, and something in my stomach told me to get closer. I walked toward the car, and the closer I got, the clearer I saw what was happening. It was Gabriel and Caroline. They were kissing. Not like an accidental or friendly kiss, but like devouring each other type. His hands were on her face, hers in his hair, and I just stood there like an idiot, watching my girlfriend of 8 years make out with my best friend the night before his wedding. I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe it was 30 seconds, maybe it was 2 minutes. I felt like someone had emptied all the air from my lungs and I couldn't breathe properly. Finally, I made noise without realizing it. I think I kicked a rock or something, and they separated super fast and turned to look at me. Caroline's face turned white, completely pale. Gabriel opened the car door and got out saying, "Alexander, wait, it's not what you think." And I could only laugh because, really? It's not what I think? What else could it be? Caroline got out of the car too and started crying, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Alexander, please let me explain." But I didn't want explanations at that moment. I told them I couldn't believe what I was seeing. How long had this been going on? But neither of them answered. They just stood there, staring at me like I was the bad guy in the movie. Gabriel tried to get closer and put his hand on my shoulder, and I pushed him. Not hard, but enough for him to back off. I told him that tomorrow is your damn wedding. Your girlfriend is upstairs sleeping, and you're out here with my girlfriend. What kind of person are you? And he just kept saying, "Okay, I know this looks bad, but there are things you don't understand. You don't understand." Those were his words. As if there was some logical explanation that justified what I had just seen. I turned around and started walking back to the hotel, but then I heard something that made everything 1,000 times worse. I heard voices, laughter, coming from the hotel entrance. It was Mitchell, Brooke, and Monica coming out of the front doors, and Mitchell was saying something out loud like, "I bet they're in Gabriel's car again," and the other two laughed. Then they saw me standing there in the parking lot, and the laughter froze on their faces. There was a horrible silence, and in that moment, I understood everything. They knew. They didn't just know. It was a joke to them, something they laughed about. I walked toward them and asked them, "How long? How long have you known that my girlfriend is cheating on me with my best friend?" Mitchell tried to say something like, "Bro, it's not that simple," and I yelled at him, "How long?" Brooke was the one who finally spoke, in a small voice, like a year, maybe a little more. A year. For over a year, all my friends knew that Caroline and Gabriel were having an affair, and no one told me anything. I asked them why. Why didn't they tell me? And Monica said, "We didn't want to get involved. It wasn't our problem. We thought you'd figure it out eventually." They thought I'd figure it out. As if it was my fault for being so stupid that I didn't realize that the people I trusted most in the world were betraying me. Mitchell added, "Plus we thought maybe you knew and didn't care, like an open relationship or something." And I could only stand there processing all this while Caroline and Gabriel approached behind me. Gabriel started saying something about how things just happened, that they didn't plan it, that they fell in love unintentionally. But I couldn't listen to him anymore. I told him to go to hell, and started walking back to the hotel. Caroline followed me, crying, begging that we talk, but I just went up the stairs, entered the room, grabbed my suitcase, and started packing my things. She came in behind me and tried to stop me, saying we could fix this, that she would end things with Gabriel, that she loved me. I asked her if she really thought we were going to fix this, after a year of lies, after literally our entire friend group knew and laughed at me behind my back. I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat in the car in the hotel parking lot until the sun came up, thinking, trying to understand how I had gotten to this point. Everything made sense now. All the times Caroline was evasive, all the weekends Gabriel had excuses to come to town, all the weird looks between them that I had ignored thinking it was my imagination. I had been an idiot, a complete idiot, and everyone knew it except me. When dawn started to break, around 6 in the morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I wasn't going to just leave quietly and let Gabriel marry Abigail without her knowing what kind of person he was. I wasn't going to allow Caroline and him to continue with their lives as if nothing happened while I was left destroyed. The wedding was at 4 in the afternoon. I decided to stay and wait for the perfect moment. I spent the day avoiding them all. I had breakfast alone at a restaurant far from the hotel, drove aimlessly around the city, answered Caroline's messages telling her I needed space. Gabriel called me like 10 times, but I didn't answer. I went back to the hotel around 2 in the afternoon, showered, put on the groomsman suit I had hanging in the closet. I looked good, or at least that's what I thought as I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was haggard from not sleeping, but I looked presentable. I went down to the ceremony area around 3:30. The place was beautiful. I'm not going to lie. They had done an incredible job with the flowers, the chairs, everything. Guests were starting to arrive, Abigail's family, friends, work colleagues. I saw Gabriel talking with the wedding coordinator. He looked nervous but excited. Caroline arrived and sat with the rest of the group. She saw me and tried to approach, but I completely ignored her. Mitchell asked me if I was okay, and I just nodded without saying anything. The ceremony started at 4 o'clock sharp. I was standing next to Gabriel at the altar, along with the other groomsmen. Abigail looked amazing in her dress, walking arm in arm with her father down the aisle while the music played. Everyone was standing, smiling, some crying with emotion. It was a perfect scene of a perfect wedding. And I was there with my secret, waiting for the right moment. The officiant started with the typical words, talking about love, commitment, the sacred union of marriage. Then came the part I was waiting for. When he asked if anyone had any reason why these two should not be married, speak now or forever hold your peace. Normally no one says anything, right? It's just a formality. But I raised my hand. The silence that followed was deafening. 200 people turned to look at me. Gabriel went pale. The officiant looked confused and asked, "Yes?" And I said, in the calmest voice I could, "Yes, I have a reason. Last night, I found the groom making out with my girlfriend of 8 years in his car in the parking lot. They've been having an affair for over a year. I thought the bride should know before making the mistake of marrying him." There was a moment of complete shock where no one moved or said anything. Then everything exploded at the same time. Abigail let out a choked scream and turned toward Gabriel. Her mother started screaming. Gabriel's father tried to approach me, but someone stopped him. Gabriel looked at me with a mixture of horror and fury, saying, "What the fuck did you do?" And I just responded, "The same thing you did to me." Abigail asked Gabriel if it was true, and he tried to deny it, but his face gave him away. She started crying, took the ring off her finger and threw it at him, told him to go to hell and ran out of there. Her family ran out after her. The guests were in complete shock, some murmuring, others trying to understand what had happened. I saw Caroline in the crowd, crying, covering her face. I saw Mitchell, Brooke, and Monica looking at me with their mouths open. I didn't stay to see more. I got down from the altar, walked down the aisle among all the guests who looked at me like I was a demon, left the hotel, got in my car, and left. I drove straight to my parents' house, which was like 2.5 hours from there. They weren't in town that weekend, so I had the house to myself. I turned off my phone and stayed there, staring at the wall, trying to process what I had just done. The following days were complete chaos. When I finally turned on my phone, I had literally hundreds of messages and missed calls. Most were from Caroline, begging me to talk, to give her another chance, that what I did was horrible. Some were from Gabriel, insulting me, telling me I had ruined his life, that I was a vindictive son of a bitch. There were messages from the rest of the group, some supporting me, most saying what I did was wrong, that I should have handled things differently. I ignored all the messages for a week. I just stayed at my parents' house, called work saying I had a family emergency. Caroline eventually showed up at the house. I don't know how she knew I was there. Maybe she guessed. She knocked on the door for like 20 minutes until I finally opened. She looked terrible. Red eyes, no makeup, in the same clothes she had probably worn since the weekend. She asked if we could talk, and I let her in. We sat in the living room and she started talking and talking, saying she was sorry, that it was a mistake, that she was confused, that Gabriel had been putting things in her head, making her doubt our relationship. I asked her exactly how long the affair had been going on, and she said, 1 year and 3 months, more or less. 1 year and 3 months. While I was making marriage plans in my head, she and my best friend were together behind my back. I asked her how they could do that, how they could look me in the face every day and act like nothing. She said she felt horrible, that many times she wanted to confess but was afraid of losing me. I told her she had already lost me, that the moment she decided to cheat on me, she lost me. Then she changed, got angry, told me that what I did at the wedding was cruel, that I ruined Gabriel's life, that Abigail broke up with him and his family hates him. I told her that Gabriel ruined his own life by cheating on his fiancée, that I just told the truth. She left after that, screaming that I was a monster, that I had destroyed everything out of spite. And maybe she was right, I don't know. But at that moment, I didn't regret anything. I went back to my apartment a few days later. Caroline had already taken out all her things. The place felt empty. All the spaces where her books, her clothes, her things used to be, were empty. It was weird, after 8 years living with someone, suddenly being completely alone. But then I realized something. Caroline and Gabriel weren't the only ones who had betrayed me. The whole group knew. Mitchell, Brooke, Monica, all of them knew, and laughed. And I decided they were going to pay for that too. Let's call it revenge. Let's call it justice. I don't know. But I felt I needed to do it. So I started investigating. I started with Mitchell. He worked in software sales for a big tech company, and he was always bragging about how much money he made. But I knew something he thought no one knew. Something he had mentioned once when he was drunk at a gathering like 2 years ago. He had a side business where he sold leads from his company to competitors. Basically, he stole potential customer information from his company and sold it for extra money. It's totally illegal and goes against any employee contract you can imagine. So I investigated a little more, confirmed he was still doing it, and sent an anonymous email to his company's human resources with evidence. I don't know exactly what evidence I used, but let's say I found ways to get proof. Mitchell was fired like 2 weeks later. He lost his job that paid him 6 figures. He's probably going to have legal problems. Do I feel bad? Not really. Then it was Brooke's turn. She had a food blog and wrote restaurant reviews. She basically lived off that. Restaurants paid her to write positive reviews and she supplemented with advertising on her blog. The problem is that many of her reviews were fake. She wrote about restaurants in cities where she had never been, used photos from Google and edited them to look like hers. Once she told me like it was funny, like it was a smart way to make money. I decided others should know too. I sent anonymous messages to several restaurants she had reviewed, to food platforms, to some local journalists who wrote about food bloggers, showing them evidence of her lies. Her reputation went to the floor. She lost contracts, sponsors, her blog basically died. The last time I checked, she was working at a coffee shop. Monica was next. She worked as a marketing consultant and always bragged about her degree from a prestigious university. What not many people knew is that that degree was fake. She had gone to a normal university, didn't finish her degree, but at some point bought a fake diploma from a better university and used it on her resume. I found out because once she left it at my house when she came to a gathering and I saw it, and something about the document looked odd. I investigated a bit and confirmed she had never studied there. I sent anonymous information to her biggest client, a tech company that paid her as a consultant, and they investigated. They ended up firing her as a contractor when they discovered the fraud. Her consulting career basically ended because now everyone in the industry knows she lied about her credentials. There were like 3 or 4 more people in the group who knew about Caroline and Gabriel, but with them I was less severe, just small things that caused them inconveniences, but nothing that ruined their lives. One of them had a social media account where he sold pirated products. I reported the account. Another person owed student loan money and was evading payments. I sent an anonymous tip. Things like that, you know. Nothing compared to what I did to Mitchell, Brooke and Monica. Was it too much? Probably. Do I care? The truth is, I don't know. At that moment, I felt it was fair. That everyone who had laughed at me, who had kept the secret and made me look like an idiot deserved some form of consequence. And they got it. The friend group completely disintegrated after all this. Some took my side. Most took Gabriel and Caroline's side, saying what I did was worse than what they did to me. I didn't care. I blocked everyone on all social media, changed my phone number, basically cut all contact with anyone who had been part of that circle. Gabriel and Abigail obviously didn't get married. I heard through someone that Abigail is engaged to someone else now, like 8 months later, so I guess she got over everything quickly. Gabriel tried to contact me like a month after everything, sending messages from unknown numbers asking me to talk. I never responded. I have nothing to say to him, honestly. Caroline also tried to communicate several times, and once I ran into her by chance at the supermarket. She tried to talk to me, and I literally walked in the opposite direction. I heard that she and Gabriel didn't stay together after everything exploded, which is ironic if you think about it. All that year of affair, of lies, of cheating, and in the end they didn't even end up together. My parents know a summarized version of what happened. I told them Caroline cheated on me and we broke up, that I lost touch with my college friends. I didn't tell them about the wedding or about my little revenge campaign against the rest of the group. My mom says she's proud of me for getting away from toxic people. My dad says time heals everything. I'm not sure either of those things is true, but I appreciate the support. Now, 6 months later, I feel weird. Not regretful exactly, but not completely at peace either. Sometimes I think I should have handled things differently. That ruining Gabriel's wedding was too much. That getting revenge on the rest of the group was excessive. But then I remember how I felt that night in the parking lot, watching the two people I trusted most betraying me, and I remember the faces of my friends laughing at the secret they all shared except me. And then I think maybe I did exactly what I had to do. I don't know if that makes me a bad person, or just a person who is fed up with being taken advantage of. Probably a little of both. I've started building a new life, I guess. I made some new friends through work, people who don't know anything about all this drama. I went on a couple of dates, but nothing serious. Honestly, I'm not ready to trust someone that way again. Maybe someday, but not now. Work is going well. My father's company is growing, and I'm more involved in important decisions. My parents are happy to have me closer. We have dinner together like twice a week. It's a quiet life, boring maybe, but it's mine, and no one is lying to me. I blocked and deleted all contact with anyone related to that group like 4 months ago. It was the best decision I made after all this. Sometimes I wonder how everyone is doing. If Caroline found someone else, if Gabriel rebuilt himself, if Mitchell got another job, if Brooke saved her blog, if Monica rebuilt her career. But they're just thoughts that pass quickly. I don't dwell on it for long. They're part of my past now. A chapter I closed dramatically and definitively. Last week, I was organizing my closet and found a photo of the group. It was from, like 3 years ago on a trip we took to the beach. We were all smiling, hugging, looking happy. Caroline had her head on my shoulder. Gabriel had his arm around Mitchell. The girls were making funny faces. And I stood there looking at that photo for a long while, trying to remember what it felt like to be that person. The Alexander who trusted everyone, who thought he had real friends, who believed in his relationship. I felt sad for that Alexander, for how naive he was. But I also felt something like relief, because that Alexander no longer exists. I threw the photo in the trash and closed the closet door. And that's how I feel about all this now, like something I can close and leave behind, even though the scars will probably stay forever.